went on for. Okay, so let me answer some questions. Does anybody have some? Yes. Well, that's interesting. The question was, will this help 16, 17-year-old children who are very sick psychologically? If they're very ill, if they've got pathology, I don't think so. I know so. They should be going to see professional help, and that's what I will always say when it's pure psychopathology. Coming from a therapist, I have to be ethical. However, if they're functioning, they're just having problems being teenagers, but also, right, okay, then, but if that is the case, it's just coming of age. I have had clients that are 17, and I say of a story in one of the chapters about my 17-year-old client who changed everything when she realized she was worthwhile. Yeah.
But the question is, would a psychiatrist use, or should a psychiatrist use something in his book?
Well, there are some of the techniques that are throughout that are cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, which they might use, but it would be up to their discretion. So they will know some of them. I certainly have put my own spin on some of these. Some of them are really traditional. Some of them have a different angle to them. So there are exercises in the book, but it's not. You don't have to do exercises to go to the next chapter, because I really can't stand that. and I really can't stand writing in books, but that's just me. So you don't, so this is, the more the exercises are for when you're driving or walking down the street, where it sort of, you think about things rather than having to fill out the exercises. So, yes?
Question, are you considering a sequel to this book?
Oh yes, sorry, thank you. Am I considering a sequel to this book? Yes, there are different ones. I think I have not, and I'll be honest with this, I have not included a lot of religion or spirituality or faith in this book, overtly, because I wanted to make it accessible to people that maybe weren't in a particular tradition of religion. So I may write one around that, and I also may ask other people to write ones in the give yourself permission vein around their own expertise. So watch my website space.
Should we believe that we have a purpose for our lives?
Well, I think that is up to you. Oh, sorry. Should we believe that we have a purpose in life? I feel that's a very personal, and I'm not trying to cop out, I feel that's a very personal thought process. I believe I have a purpose. I wholeheartedly believe I have a purpose, and I will walk that. I think it's very warming to feel that you have a purpose, and it's very enriching, and it's also focusing. I think a purpose can take a long time to come, or it comes out of the blue, out of nowhere. But I do feel it's a benefit to have a purpose, but it is definitely an individual thought. Does that help? Yeah. Melissa.
Do you have specific ideas or suggestions about how you would like us to communicate your message?
Oh.
Other than just, giving everybody your book, but are there specific ideas you have about it?
Well, yeah, I'm going to build this brand. And it's really important to me that it becomes a community.
What's the question?
Oh. How can we help you spread the word? Melissa asked. What are my plans for to spread the word, not just try and flog the book to people, but I mean that in the nicest possible way. I'm going to build the brand. And so I'm going to have e-courses. And I want this to be a community of people that are giving themselves permission and helping other people do the same. So there's going to be a lot around it. So right now I've got a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram. It'd be wonderful if you could share. I mean, that is the way. Just today I tweeted about this, and the city of Pasadena retweeted it to 10,000 people. I mean, 5 years ago I would not have had that accessible platform. And we all know what social media can do, but we also need to buy into it. And I just really feel that this is the way we can get this message out. And this message is, the give yourself permission is talked about a lot, but it's not being driven through all aspects. It's being talked as a side, and so I wanted to get into the middle, that people are worthwhile and they matter, and I want to do this with everybody. So I know that sounds a bit strident, but that is my purpose. So, thank you. Okay, yes, please.
I was reading this week that the last surviving son of Bernie Madoff died.
Mm-hmm.
They were young men. And I couldn't help but think that if someone said, you know, what your father did is not your responsibility. Of course, they were working, so I don't know. But I think they died of feeling worthless and ashamed. And that's a direct Korean example.
Mm-hmm. This lady here was sharing about Bernie Madoff's children she was saying what happens to children of parents that do egregious things. And she was wondering if there was a way that if they were told that the sins of the fathers, as it were, was not their responsibility, whether that would make their life different, if they could truly own it. And I do think so. But we all have to do that in all realms as well, because we can have a teacher that said we were no good at math when we were 5, maths, when we were 5. And believe me, a lot of my clients, and they're bankers now, have had that. So they're always worrying about if they're a fraud. Is someone going to catch them? Because it's way deeply ingrained that they're not as good as they have become, because they were told by their teachers that they weren't good at that specific thing. So it's switching that. And so this is a lot of that. It's people working on switching their mindset and believing in themselves come hell or high water. And there are some tools in here, and there are certainly plenty of professionals that can help with that as well. So that's my thought. You're welcome. Thank you. Any other? You're right.
Thank
You're
How
being
can
my
the
sister.
various generations interpret your book? How can, because various generations have grown up differently. So they
Completely.
take a book and then how can they adapt them to themselves?
Well, again, that comes back to the personal aspect of it. Sorry? Oh, how can, thank you. How can, I need 2 of these. How can different generations interpret the concept of the book? Because everybody's come from different aspects, different lifestyles, different generations and cultures as well. And again, I will say, and I'm not copping out again, it's individual. It is individual because we think that certain cultures, certain socioeconomic backgrounds, certain ages, certain generations are thinking one way, or they have different anxieties. That's not necessarily true. We actually all have the same stress, anxiety, fears, it just manifests differently. So I think generationally, I'm not sure that across the board people have the same issues. They just come out different ways, and you have to deal with them relevant to your background and your society or your environment. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? No? Oh, Dasha.
So I know that you can, give yourself that initial permission, to be happy. But do you have any advice? Like, there's so many variables that go into happiness, right? Excuse me. How do you keep those consistent? How do you keep those level? How do you?
Okay. So the question was, yay, thank you. How do you keep, there are so many variables in how you're happy or how you can stay happy. How do you keep that consistent? You don't. You can't be happy all the time. I mean, that is the truth of the matter. Without being sad, you won't know what happiness is. And I know that sounds sort of counterintuitive, but there are the two sides, the dichotomy. The thing is that we can be purposeful about our happiness and our joy. So then we can understand when we are not as happy or we've had disappointment, that it is what it is. And then we change our mindset to see where we can find joy or we can find learning. And a lot of times learning makes people happy because the next time they don't do the same thing. So I think personally one of the best tools to maintain a consistent level of happiness as much as we possibly can is to be grateful, to show gratitude. And I tell a story in the book of, I was in London and during the Jubilee my loo exploded. I mean literally on a 5-day weekend, and there were no plumbers and I was having people over and I only had one loo. And I thought, what am I going to do? I thought, no, Priya, you have to be grateful. I thought, grateful for what? And then I thought, okay, grateful, quick. I'm grateful I don't live in the Victorian times and I have to go to an outhouse and there's a plumber that will come within 3 days. So it was 5 days before it got fixed, because it's England. And I had to, in the middle of the night, go down to the porter's loo and let myself into his flat. But that's England. But I was grateful that it could get fixed and I wasn't in the Victorian time. And so that's trite, but that is a way to switch mindset. What are you grateful for in this situation right now? Some people do it in the morning, 3 things I'm grateful for. Some people do it with their families in the evening, 3 things we're grateful for the day. I do it in times of crisis. So does that answer that? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Is there another question? Donnie.
My last question is that one lady here said that she gave permission herself to travel around the world,
Yeah.
right? What if that doesn't happen? How do you deal with failing that big goal you have or big dream? What happens next? I mean, do you make a bigger goal, smaller, you go back to that same dream?
Well, you've taken...
How do you deal with that? Like it doesn't happen because it is real.
So the question was, what happens when you've given yourself permission to do something and you don't achieve it? Absolutely valid question. And there will be times when you don't. But by giving yourself permission, you've taken a risk. And I call this the risk equation, as it were. So when you try something and you take a risk and you fail, you've learned something. And so the next time you take that risk, you've got experience. And so you know how to do things differently, or you know how to ask someone else. So when you don't reach the initial goal, and you failed, well, you haven't really failed, because you've gained experience. And that will increase your chances of success the next time. So with the traveling around the world, now maybe that is you learn you can't do that because of time, and the kids are in school, and things like that, so you can do it in stages. Instead of traveling around the world in one big foul swoop, you do it in 2-week stages. And there are people that do that, and it's still a goal for your life. You don't have to get the goals done in 3 weeks. These can be long-term goals, short-term goals, but permission is a vision, an intention. So, yes, and
what do you recommend saying to people who, when you're dreaming big, and you're on this new walk and you're trying to, set your intentions out, when they come back and give you all kinds of negative. Why would you dream that big? Or why would you want
other people?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, what happens when you dream big and you put it out there to other people and they shoot you down? Keep on walking. I mean, they will. Because when you start changing, everybody's going to feel out of whack. Yeah, it's threatening, and they don't know what's happening to you. Because honestly, you're changing the game on them. You've acted one way, and you've changed it on them. And they don't know what's going on, so you kind of have to feel sorry for them. But you don't have to acquiesce. Yeah. So does that answer that? Thank you. There was another question. Sure. Hi.
So I'm curious, have you thought about taking your platform and how that might translate for an employer, or a group of people, or a team construct?
I have, yes, and I would, if you'd like me to come to your company, I'd love to. I've known Sean since I was 13, so yeah, I think that this is the thing. I have so many clients that come to me and they want to talk about work. And it really comes down to these things: communication, how to influence people, how to understand people, and how to be a leader as well. Even I'm of the opinion that we're all leaders in our lives, no matter what. We are the leaders of our own lives. So learning leadership skill, even if we're not leading a big team, we are leading ourselves. So I think these do all translate into the workplace and in team building, and the whole dream team aspect. But what I think is really important is the values. Not everybody is good at everything. Not everybody likes everything. So you might have a team member that is so not organized. They could care less about being organized. Don't give them an organizational job. You just don't. Because they won't be good at it. But they're really good at being an ambassador, being representing the company. So when you figure out what their values are, what's important to them, then give them those jobs. Give them that arena to shine, and then they're going to blossom. And then everybody else is in the team. So does that? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yes, over there.
Is there any guideline to give yourself permission for something, but not to give yourself permission for something else? What do you draw the line between
So,
giving yourself permission for
right.
something and not giving yourself?
Okay, so the question is, where's the line between giving yourself permission and not giving yourself permission to do something? And there is a line, and maybe that is a follow-up book. And again, I'm not trying to be flippant. This book is definitely for the people and the clients that I've come across that don't give themselves permission to do anything. The people that should hold back are probably not the readers of this book. And I mean, that's the honesty. The thing is you can't write a book for everybody. You just can't. I mean, I remember, what was her name? CEO Lean-In, Sheryl Sandberg. Everybody criticized her for writing a book that was out of touch with some people. Well, it was, but that's okay, because you can't write a book for everybody. So I think that's a very valid point. There is a line where you shouldn't give yourself permission to do anything. Maybe you'll write that book for me to go in the vein. Seriously. That's the sort of thing, this is what I want people to start thinking about. These sort of questions where we can make a difference in our society and in this world. So thank you for that question. It's good, thank you. Any others? How are we doing?
You can take a couple more if you'd like.
But there aren't any more, though. There are? No? Well, I'm going to be signing books here, and I know people have been standing up, and I was here yesterday for a sci-fi author, and I don't read sci-fi. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just don't. But I came to see how everything sounded and what it was all like, and so I bought the book. I was being really good, and I came up here, and I gave him my book, and it took forever. So I don't want you to go through forever, so I'll do as quickly as I can. But I brought the book up to him, and I gave him the book. He goes, "You look familiar." I'm like, "Yeah, no, not me." And he goes, "Oh, well," I said, "this is my first foray into sci-fi." And he's like, "Well, why are you here then?" I said, "You want the truth?" I said, "I'm learning from the master because I'm speaking tomorrow." So my point being is that this line can take quite a bit of time. And so I am going to stop now. Please, there's more drinks, there's more food. And I look forward to chatting with you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, before everybody disperses, I just wanted to let you know, those who are getting their books signed, if you would stand on this side of the room, and anybody who can't stand for a long period of time, we encourage you to